Hello, my name is Pamela Martin, and today's webinar is called To Do Today, Reducing Belongings While Sheltering in Place. A quick note about me. My name is Pamela Martin, and I own a company called Long World Services for the Living. Basically, we travel anywhere in the United States to put a home to rest. We complete all the tasks with putting a home to rest. We consign, donate, and dispose of all the belongings in the home, as well as do household repairs, recycle, belongings, clean the property, prepare it for real estate agents. We also take very good care of plants and animals left behind. Today's topic, though, is simply how to reduce our belongings while sheltering in place. We'll talk about deciding what to keep, kind of getting ourselves into a headspace for that, creating a workspace and minimizing bulky items in the home, researching and consigning our valuables ourselves, creative ways to donate, and finally, we'll discuss recycling and discarding. First off, if you're transitioning to a smaller property, I really suggest surveying all the rooms in your home and really trying to think which items will you bring into your new life, your new home. And if you're putting a loved one's home to rest during COVID-19, think to yourself which items will you be transporting back to your home or your own life. Now, when we think about value, it's actually very subjective, right? Our favorite coffee mug, for instance, maybe it's old, but if we love it and it brings us a lot of fond memories, of course we want to keep something like this. I really think the key when we're looking at our belongings is asking yourself, does this item make you happy? If the answer is yes, great. Is there mental and physical space in your life for this item? This is also very important. If the answer is yes, wonderful. Looks like you have a case for keeping an item. However, if you find yourself answering no to either one of these questions, it's a really great idea to stop and think. Do you really want to transport belongings to your adult child's attic, for instance, or move your deceased loved one's things into a storage unit? These can be quite expensive, quite traumatic solutions. I had one client, for instance, who spent $25,000 over a course of 10 years just on storage unit for her deceased mother's belongings, which she had too much trouble even looking through, right? So these items just sat in the storage unit, much to her dismay, right? Okay, so Marie Kondo, famous organizer, she asks us why we keep objects we don't love. And I think a really big reason is guilt. We say things to ourselves, oh, this was my dad's favorite painting. He passed away. I should keep it, keep his memory. Well, maybe as adults, we've all struggled with this word should. And I think sometimes if we remove the word should and reframe the sentence, we can eliminate or reduce some of that guilt. Instead, we could say something like, this was dad's favorite painting. A unique person will really love it. I'm not sure if you've read this wonderful bestseller called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. The author says this book is for ages 30 to 100, people of all ages looking to downsize and sort of clean up their homes and clean up after themselves. I love this quote from the book. Give cherished things away with the wish that they end up with someone who will create memories of their own. How lovely. Finally, Roz Chast to help us get into the mindset of what to keep. In her book, she discusses the process of helping her elderly parents move out of a lifelong apartment in New York City. As she was going through her parents' belongings, she asked herself, if my kids don't want this, I'm not going to take it. Right? And so this is, I think, a great piece of advice. Perhaps while you're going through your homes, you might want to ask yourself, if my kids aren't going to want this, maybe I will donate it or dispose of it for them. Great. Let's move on now to creating a workspace and minimizing bulky items in our home. Again, survey every room in your home. And when possible, create a staging area in a completely blank room. So perhaps you have a guest room with just, a twin size bed or a dresser in it. If you can, move those items out of the home so you have a completely blank working area. In this area, you can set up 4 piles: minimize, consign, donate, and discard. We'll discuss first minimizing. I think this is a great time to look through all of your papers. Papers are so bulky, and once we scan them and have them safely secured, we can just dispose of them or shred them. Um, because papers are the most boring topic in the world, I actually just put together a list of papers I suggest keeping and papers I suggest scanning. That is on your handout that I will provide for you after the webinar. So you can scan important papers, put them on an external hard drive, and I suggest at least 2 secure cloud servers. TurboScan is a great app you can download for free at online to use on your Apple or Android phone. And Everplans is such a neat company. Basically, you sign up, you can upload all of your important estate closing documents down to your utility bills, even your account numbers for your utility bills. Upon your death or medical emergency, your appointed deputy will receive a password to your Everplans account, and this information will help your estate planner, close your estate really without all of the headaches. Also, during this time, it might be fun to create an emergency grab and go folder. My husband and I call ours our Call Everyone folder. Inside our folder, we have the deed to our house, we have our car ownership papers, we have copies of our credit card and debit card number, our passports, our driver's license, all sorts of papers like this. Where if there's ever a fire, for instance, in the home or environmental emergency, we can simply grab this folder and run. I think this is really, during COVID-19, maybe a great time to put a folder like this together. Now, what do you do with all these leftover papers? Well, a couple of them certainly you have to keep, but the rest of them, you can have them shred at Staples for $1 per pound, and Staples is in fact open during COVID-19. Coins. Coins are such a bulky item. So, if you find yourself with a great deal of quarters, dimes, nickels, pennies, things like this, I had a client once with $6,000 in just regular everyday coins like this, not specialty coins. You can run to Coinstar, which is at every Jewel Osco in Chicagoland, I believe virtually every Jewel Osco. While they charge a 12% service fee, I think saving your time rolling all of those pennies, I think is well worth it. Photos. If you encounter a box of photos or home movies during your downsizing journey, I really suggest putting it aside until you have all of your other work finished. If you're not feeling sentimental and you are able to look through this box, you may want to start the process of digitizing these photos. Legacy Box is a great company in which you can simply ship a box of VHS, Super 8, photos. You ship them off to Legacy Box, and they return everything. They just put everything on a USB and a CDR. Very convenient. A free way to do this is to get your college students who are busy, maybe playing video games, to take a break, download the free app PhotoScan, and ask them to, scan all of your family photos. This is a free option. I mean, it's quite time consuming, but who doesn't love something free? Okay, great. Clothing, another very, very bulky item. I think a lot of us sentimentalize clothing. We think to ourselves, wow, this was the first suit I wore to my internship in 1985. I couldn't possibly get rid of this. Or when we have a loved one pass away, certainly it's difficult to dispose of the clothing. When this happens, I really suggest reaching out to a memorial quilt company. My favorite company is Lori Mason Design. She's so neat. All you do is you ship her your favorite clothing or your loved one's favorite clothing, and she will create a beautiful memorial quilt. Of course, she does this for people who are just simply transitioning to a smaller property. So if you'd like to ship her all of your sports t-shirts, for instance, or band t-shirts, she can create a beautiful blanket for you to transport those memories in a space-saving way. Finally, I had a colleague who had a great idea. She had a client who had about 50 different teapots from around the world. And she simply took an individual photo of each teapot and she made a made a poster in which the client transported to her new, very, very small senior living facility. So she simply hung the photo in her new space and was able to enjoy her collections in a different form. This is also a great time to look through your silver collection. Most people have something called silver plate, which is not valuable. Some people, however, do have some sterling silver mixed in. Um, I have this little chart included on your handout. On the left, you see some facts about sterling silver, including how to indicate if something you have is indeed sterling silver and valuable. You can look at the bottom of your item. Look for the number 925. Typically, magnets won't stick to silver, and it's very, very light. If you have silver plate, it tends to be extremely heavy because it's really only a coat of sterling over like ceramic or really heavy brass. Magnets stick to silver plate, and it also it may have oxidized, like there are all these beautiful like purple and blue and pink colors on it. If that happens, that means that the metal underneath the sterling silver has come up and is sort of eroding the thin coat of silver on top, the sterling silver on top. Anyhow, take an hour to investigate your collection and see if you have anything of value that you'd like to perhaps sell. Another item of I guess like surprising value could be like a little baggie you have perhaps of broken gold chains, unwanted jewelry, even dental gold. David Cass is my friend from Lake Forest. He does in person or virtual sessions, and he buys gold and precious metals right on the spot. I've seen David pay a great deal of money for a bag of what looks like complete garbage. These kind of broken chains from J.C. Penney from the 1980s. Well, if they're, 14 or 18 karat gold, you can actually just sell them to David or another precious gold buyer. His information is on our handout. Eternity Gardens is a very interesting company. It's an online website in which you can simply find a place for an urn. I include this because, as I mentioned, I close homes when people pass away. 9 times out of 10, I find an urn containing a loved one's remains or a pet's remains. Now, whenever this happens, it's quite sad, right? And I need to ask the family, okay, what would you like me to do with these ashes? And then I always direct this family to Eternity Gardens. They're able to look up a final resting place by religious denomination, environmental preference, and then location preference, of course. Okay, let's move on to researching and consigning tips I have for you. All right, first and foremost, I always start with the bad news that everything depreciates. That means, of course, that if we purchased a couch for $10,000 10 years ago, maybe it's not worth anything right now. Maybe we can't even get anyone to take it for free. It's a sad story, right? Although, maybe we have some figurines or some valuables in the home and we're curious if they have any resale value. I think a great way to start is eBay. It's very dangerous, however, to look at the listed price instead of the sold price. So let's take a look at these Hummels, for instance. Here, we see this Hummel is listed for $75 plus shipping. Did it actually sell for $75? No. It actually only sold for $15. Now we can tell that by simply going to the eBay website, scrolling all the way down on the left here, and we can find this box. Let's click on Show Only Completed Items and Sold Items. This will tell us exactly what all the item we're looking for, sold for. Perhaps we can see what it sold for 3 different times and we can average the price. I think this helps us manage our expectations of how much an item is worth. We have to remember scarcity and demand, of course. This is a funny story. So, vintage Halloween decorations are ephemera, like they were never meant to last, right? So, when I find vintage Halloween items in an antique store, they're typically very, very expensive and they sell. This little guy here, this jack o' lantern candy dish, was selling for $50, and I'm positive it sold. Okay? Now, Christmas ornaments are interesting because these are not ephemera, right? They were meant to be passed down. Although they're glass and very fragile at times, people often have Christmas ornaments from their grandparents' collection. Basically, there are more Christmas ornaments on Earth than there are, vintage Halloween decorations. Therefore, Christmas decorations will not sell for as much money as something very rare like this jack o' lantern. Another funny story is, well, I don't know how funny it is. Recently, one of my clients had a very, very lovely collection of American Brilliant Cut Glass, as shown here, and I wasn't even able to find an auction house willing to take this collection. Wow, right? Good, too bad they didn't have the vintage Halloween decorations. That's of course because you don't have a lot of Generation X and millennial buyers who are interested in this type of glass. All right. Now, we all love Pyrex, right? Surely we've seen this ubiquitous Pyrex bowl. It's part of the Nesting Bowl series. This bowl would sell for about $10 at an antique store, whereas this Lucky and Love pattern sold once on eBay for $4,200. That's because it's an extremely rare pattern and you have some serious Pyrex enthusiasts out there. Isn't it interesting that Pyrex, this particular piece of Pyrex, sold for more than most China sets would ever sell for? I mean, most China sets, again, we can't get an auction house to sell these for us unless it's a, very coveted brand or pattern. Okay, remember in this fast-paced world, Generation X and millennial people are often minimalists. Sometimes they don't buy houses. Sometimes they don't even have a boyfriend or girlfriend, right? They aren't committing to long-term relationships or things, right? Perhaps they enjoy vacations and experiences more than they do a set of crystal glasses, right? So therefore, it is difficult for us to give away or sell a lot of the great items we have in our homes. Now, all that being said, there are home good brands that I find still sell, especially in the Midwest. Here's a list of brands that I see that sell well at auctions and online. I have this list on your handout, so don't worry about taking notes. All right. Another sad story. In between era furniture is the type of furniture that most baby boomers and a lot of GI generation people, so that's people who are 60 and over, a lot of people tend to have this type of furniture that we in the industry call in between era furniture or big brown furniture. Here's an example. This is an estate sale I attended. This is not an estate sale that I ran. Notice how unlovingly these pieces of furniture are presented here. It's actually quite a sad story, I feel like. Like who wants this dresser or this computer desk? The answer is no one. These pieces of furniture are not scarce and they're not desirable. Therefore, we may not be able to sell them at all. Again, you have a lot of millennial and Generation X people purchasing very, very light, minimalist pieces like the one here in this photo. A lot of them just simply go to IKEA and they buy disposable furniture. They're not interested in what we have to offer, what our parents, what baby boomers have to offer. Now, that being said, millennials and baby boomers, it doesn't matter what generation. This is popular furniture and it's sort of timeless furniture. So if you own Amish or Shaker furniture, arts and crafts, Art Nouveau, Art Deco, or minimalist furniture, you should be able to auction or consign these items. Okay, this is very, very loved, classic, spectacular furniture. Now, I put mid-century modern in a different color here simply because it's just a sort of funny example. Back in the 1990s, mid-century modern furniture was actually not popular at all. It was considered very ugly. And for the last 10 years, however, it's been extremely popular. So if you have mid-century modern furniture, you should be able to sell this as well. We at Long World often find big brown furniture. That's 90% of the furniture we find in homes is classified as big brown furniture, which means we're unable to sell this. Sometimes we're even unable to donate it. Donation centers often refuse to even accept china cabinets or entertainment centers. Therefore, they often need to be disassembled or and just discarded, right? It's a very sad story. But remember, so I'm 40 years old. I'm technically in Generation X, and I don't own a television set. I use a projector. I watch movies, from my computer, which is hooked up to a projector. Many people my age either do something like that or they have a television inside their wall. So, yeah, that's why, entertainment centers can't be donated because so few people want to buy them. All right, if you have some artwork in your home, here are some great websites you can go to investigate what your art may be worth. Keep in mind, however, that about 4 million pieces of art have sold in the history of like our keeping track of that. So it's actually quite difficult to get accurate prices. If you do, however, encounter something and you believe that it's worth $1,000 or more, I really recommend contacting a professional appraiser and validating that price. Records. Okay, so records definitely have a potential for money. This depends what type of records you have and in what condition you find them. So what you can do is type or scan the barcode at the reverse side of your records into Discogs, which is a record research and record collector website. Again, this is another thing you could have your college students do for you. You can cross-reference the price you find on Discogs with eBay, okay? All right, remember that scarce titles in high demand are going to bring you the most money. You have a chance of higher resale value when you have albums from artists who've died recently, rare or limited pressings, editions with errors or signature, and then, of course, artists with an extreme fan base. Here are a couple records I have that range from $20 to $100 a piece. I'm showing you this because, these aren't really, they're very special musically, but these aren't rare records. So I've been collecting records since I was 14. I started collecting when baby boomers started selling their records and purchasing CDs. Okay, so long ago, of course, records were a dollar a piece. It didn't matter what the titles were. Of course, there were rare records too, but so many titles were about a dollar a piece. And CDs were selling for almost $20 in a lot of places. So anyhow, we just see how trends shift over time. If you do have a cool record collection, you could actually be looking at getting some money. Now, unfortunately, most of the records I encounter when I'm closing a home for Long World are records that are in poor condition. Perhaps they have water damage or they have mold on them. Ubiquitous reissues, classical and neoclassical records do not sell, Broadway titles, and adult contemporary titles. So all of these really are best just going into the garbage. I hate saying that, especially because the record itself cannot be recycled. The sleeve, however, and the paper within the record, of course, can be recycled. So, go ahead and recycle if you can. Also, if you ever find this record, make sure to just throw it in the garbage. This is the most ubiquitous record. This is the record I find most often when I am, dumpster diving or looking for records at a kind of chaotic shop. All right. So, selling other media. Can we sell cassette tapes, books, CDs, VHS, DVDs? The answer is yes and no, right? So again, we talked about CDs. They were very popular in the 1990s. I worked at a record store in the 1990s, and we sold CDs for $17.99 each, okay? Now, unfortunately, if you're reselling a CD that's used, you could look to get about $1 each, a dollar for each CD, unless it's a very rare um, recording that's not available in any other format, okay? Cassette tapes, the right titles are very trendy right now. Actually, cassette tapes have a longer shelf life than CDs. So a lot of people will purchase your cassette tapes. All right, you could sell DVDs, but unfortunately, VHS, uh, I can't think of anyone who's purchasing VHS. I love VHS though. That's actually, I have a pretty large VHS collection. Again, I think that VHS tapes are more reliable than DVDs, but currently people are buying DVDs instead of VHS. All right, now Reckless Records is a great place to sell your DVDs, CDs, and records. Unfortunately, you're going to have to wait until after COVID-19 restrictions are lifted to sell your albums to Reckless, however. Large coffee table books and first edition books can be worth money. Um, let's see, Myopic Books in the city, it's in Wicker Park. They have book buyers on Fridays and Saturdays. Powell's in Hyde Park. They buy books. You just have to call ahead and make sure the book buyer is on the premises. And Half Price Books, they will offer you the least amount of money, but they have just drop in. So you can simply just go in anytime and sell your collections. Of course, COVID-19 restrictions are in place with all three of these organizations, but after the restrictions are lifted, take your books on down there. If you are going through your closet and you find, for instance, what's it called? Wedding dresses, you can donate them to Brides for a Cause. If you find maternity clothes, you could consign them yourself on Motherhood Closet. Okay, both of those organizations are listed on your handout. If you locate designer bags, shoes, or clothes, The Real Real is a great company that will set you up with a consignment agreement. I have Chicago reps contact information on our handout, and I'll tell you, it's a really attractive consignment agreement. You simply make an appointment with Sarah, who's the Chicago Real consignment expert. She will send you, she'll approve your items, and then she'll send you a shipping label. You simply put the shipping label on a box, and you can mail off your designer bag, shows, and clothes to The Real Real, and they will pass the consignment proceeds on to you. Tools. Tools certainly sell, especially Craftsman and USA Tools. These will sell in any kind of economic situation. Okay, now let's talk about some creative ways to donate during COVID-19. We all know that Goodwill and Salvation Army is closed. They're both closed. Wings is closed. All of our favorite places to donate are closed. So what do we do? Well, I think the best solution is to give things away. My favorite idea is organizing a neighborhood giveaway event. Perhaps you and your neighbors, make some phone calls and ask neighbors to put all of the items they've collected from their closets, garages, attics, basements at the end of their driveway on one specific day. So perhaps you choose a Saturday in June in which all of the families can, bring the items to the end of the driveway and kind of offer a no contact giveaway sale, right? I think advertising on Nextdoor, Craigslist, LetGo, Free Cycle Network, and Facebook Marketplace is a great idea. Again, just pick one day and see if all of the neighbors are willing to participate. Now, of course, we should mention on the ad that everyone should practice social distancing, wear masks, etc. So keeping that information on the ad is a good idea too. Now, after this neighborhood giveaway, I suggest, just renting a dumpster. My friend Debbie DePalma at Wise Up had this great idea, right? There are so many people with broken items that, aren't appropriate for giveaway. So after a sale like this, neighbors could simply, throw away the remaining items, any broken items, and then everyone pitches in. A 30 cubic foot dumpster rents for about $500 for 5 days. So, if all of your neighbors contribute $20, $30, it's actually pretty cost effective. Chicago Furniture Bank is such a neat organization. They're actually open and accepting furniture donations at this time. Only drop off is available, however, and it is in the south side, so it might be a hike for some of our North Shore friends. They accept donations between Monday and Friday at 9 to 5. I also always recommend donating things to small businesses. Um, there are great companies, great businesses throughout our neighborhoods, employing people, doing great things for our communities. I think they also deserve office supplies, all these kinds of things that perhaps we would be donating to Goodwill. Small businesses surely could use them. Food banks. This is another place to donate any kind of food you don't believe that you're going to be eating anytime soon that's not expired. Also, paper products. A lot of my clients have hundreds and hundreds of napkins that are sealed up, like for parties, for different holidays. Um, and food banks are happy to take paper products, plastic silverware, disposable plates, these sorts of things. So um, there are some food banks listed on your handout, North Shore Food Banks. Dress for Success is an organization that is still operating. They help homeless people who are transitioning into professional careers. You could run a Dress for Success donation in your own neighborhood in which you're collecting professional clothes, and one person could simply, drive the lot down to Dress for Success in the Loop. Our own Karen Brownie from YMCA, she's actually, driving around and collecting old smartphones and iPads and, wiping them and redistributing them to seniors who are isolated right now during COVID-19. So if you find some extra iPads, iPhones, smartphones in your closet, consider donating these items to Karen. Her email is right here, but you can also uh, call her. I have her phone number on the handout. Sheets and towels are extra sheets and towels. You can donate these to animal shelters or vet offices. Uh, Red Door in Rogers Park is actually open and operating, accepting donations right now. Also, as a special offer for the rest of the month, I will come to your house and pick shoes up from your porch and redistribute them to people who need them. If you have 10 or more shoes, you could simply put them in a garbage bag, put them on your front porch, or put them outside of your home. I'll come do a no contact pickup. And what I do is I actually just bring them to my home in West Rogers Park. I set them up in front of my home, and I live in a very economically diverse neighborhood. There are plenty of refugees who would be so happy with your secondhand shoes. So please feel free to text or call me, and I will come pick up those shoes from now until June 1st. If later on you find some other shoes you'd like to donate, Souls for Souls is run by Zappos. You could simply go to the Zappos website, print out a shipping label, and mail off any shoes you don't want. And these shoes go to people around the world who need them. All right, so after COVID-19 restrictions are lifted, I suggest, I really think that community-run dorm or apartment bank is such a good idea. I find so many wonderful, like unused sheets and blankets and dishes in my clients' homes. And I always think about these young kids who are getting their own apartments or they're going to the dorm, and they have to go to these expensive stores like Bed Bath & Beyond to purchase new things when there are plenty of new things that they could just keep, right? So I think creating a dorm or apartment bank would be a really fantastic idea. Senior centers really love donations. After COVID-19, donating craft supplies, musical instruments, all sorts of things like this, great idea. Personal care products. I always find unused toothpaste, Band-Aids, medical supplies, tissue, and I love to donate these to homeless shelters. If you do have a collection of china, consider, the next time you're making some holiday treats, you could use your china to, as as the as the item to transport your treats to your friends or family. Delicious, and it's also very lovely. And then that piece of china becomes that person's problem, right? Not problem, it's lovely, right? Okay. And then my favorite story is from a senior couple in Washington, D.C. They were 75. They decided instead of having an estate sale to have a downsizing party. What a fantastic idea. They invited all of their friends and family over for brunch, and they gave everyone a mimosa and said, okay, well, you have to take home your champagne glass and please walk around the house and take anything you want. So instead of, again, selling the items, they knew right where their friends and family or they knew right where their things that they loved were going. They were going to their friends and family. What a great story. Finally, let's talk about a couple ways to recycle and discard during COVID-19. There is a great metal recycler working in the North Shore. His name is Alan Mesh. He will come to your home and he will pick up your obsolete electronics. And while he's there, he will pick up any metal scraps that you have. What else about Alan? Oh, he's also conducting this amazing fundraising project right now. It's called Computer for Every Child, and he's picking up broken computers or computers that are missing parts, and he wipes them, refurbishes them, and he gives them to a child who is engaged in e-learning right now. So really, really neat guy. His information is on our handout. Okay. Also, if later on, the Best Buy also does free electronics recycling. If you find that you have a great deal of chemicals you'd like to get rid of, don't tell anyone I told you, but the chemical recycling plant is open in Naperville. As of today, which is May 20th, 2020, the hours are Saturday and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. for drop off. And it's actually a no contact drop off. You stay in your car and you simply put your chemicals in your trunk. So nice and safe. All right, paint. In Chicago, paint can actually legally be put in the traditional garbage, but it needs to be dry. So make sure to take your paint outside that you'd like to get rid of. Take the lid off, wait until it dries, or if you're in a hurry, simply dump some kitty litter into the paint and that will dry it right up. You can also drop expired prescriptions or any kind of like dangerous prescriptions at police stations. Home Depot accepts light bulbs. Use light bulbs. And TerraCycle.com is a really neat organization that helps you locate places to recycle old toothbrushes and traditionally difficult items to recycle. And then my go-to is always earth911.com. So anytime I encounter something I'm not sure how to recycle it, I just hop on over to this website and very useful. If you enjoyed this presentation and you would like more information, please go to my website for more do-it-yourself videos. Finally, don't forget to call me for a shoe pickup anytime from now until June 1st. Here's my phone number, 312-286-0586. It's actually my cell number, so you can call me or text me and we can arrange a pickup. Thank you very much for your attention, and everyone stay safe and be healthy during this time.